Hi guys, I'm Doz and welcome to the DBG channel. Now before we start on our little ramble down memory lane, which we will do in just a moment, as regular followers will be aware, I have made a little bit of a start on inventing a different type of Mercury, a gun that I think BSA maybe should have made rather than the ones that they did end up making. Hot on the heels of the Mercury XL, there's a bit of a Mercury heavy theme on this one, strangely. I have also come up with a fusion of two of my favourite things, which is BSA spring guns of the classic era and diopter sights. So drum roll please, I give you the BSA Mercury Cadet. Yay! Obviously they had, BSA have had a reasonable history of adapting various models with the use of diopter sights or equipping them with a means of adapting the sights included into diopter sights and then attaching the Cadet name to that particular type of gun. So like most recently they did the it's the BSA Scorpion Cadet PCP. Prior to that they did the Meteor Cadet way back in time, and that had the rear sight, the key metal type rear sight that you could mount at the rear and had like a tiny little peep element on it. Well, this is the DBG Mercury Cadet. It comes with the excellent pressy hole diopter sight attached to the rear, and on the front the same setup as they have on the Scorpion Cadet, which is the barrel mount and the excellent 3D printed tunnel sight with a choice of diopter elements on it. It is phenomenally good fun to shoot. Over the range I've got in here, it is every bit the match for my HW99S. I recently put up for sale. If you're interested, get in touch. That was wearing these sights up until then. I've switched them over to this. This is performing every bit as well, and because it's it's kind of what we specialise on with the BSA classic spring guns. This is why this is also now in my collection, along with the BSA Mercury XLs. So I'm struggling to remember which way round the letters went then. Okay, so we're going to head off on our little stroll down memory lane. So I'm just going to put this little beauty down. Our memory lane one last week got a reasonable amount of feedback from people. People got involved. One or two comments in particular made me think about doing the one I'm going to do today, which was somebody, there were a couple of comments about old Airgun World articles, writers, etc., which was something I sort of mentioned obliquely in the last video. So I figured we'd have a little chat about that. But before we get to that, just also wanted to say how, whenever I speak to customers now, we end up reminiscing about the old days. It normally goes back to childhood, which for most of us is where we started to get involved with air guns, be it with the in my instance with my dad, but I mean for other people it might be with an older sibling, an uncle, school friends, or a combination thereof. And we always end up just reflecting on how very different childhoods are now for kids. We never used to think anything of just roaming around the streets with air rifles and air pistols. We'd be out for hours and hours at a time, getting up to, well, I don't suppose we were the best behaved, and I don't suppose we were perfect little angels, but obviously you tend to be selective about what you remember. But I know we got up to all sorts of scrapes. I certainly did with my schoolmates. I'm some of my best shooting mates. Danny Redding, hi, Danny Crosby, who I mate. I'm still in touch with. They're still into guns. It's funny how these things can kind of follow you through life from like a sort of childhood passion. And we used to, like I say, we used to have great fun. We took our first sort of tentative steps, usually very unsuccessfully, into the world of airgun hunting. I think we were a lot more ambitious and probably nowhere near as ethical as we should have been. And I'd certainly any hunting that I've done as a grown-up has been done with humane considerations first and foremost. But unfortunately, teenagers generally don't tend to think like that. But most of the time, our guns were so inaccurate and our fieldcraft so poor that we never got anywhere near any unfortunate animals, so it really wasn't too much of a problem. But obviously we did all the other things that kids do with sort of shooting jam jars and old scrap cars and stuff like that, and it was a huge amount of fun. And the background for all of our sort of airgun adventures as children, and our means of finding out more about the airgun world and what was new and stuff in those far off pre-internet days was of course printed media. Now printed media is something that has a really tough time now. If you look at any type of specialist interest or hobby or sport or anything like that, you could name any random one. For most of them, they're going back 20 years, 30 years, there would have been a good selection of printed periodicals covering that sport or that hobby or that interest. To the extent that, that you quite often have half a dozen, maybe even a dozen different titles vying over the same audience. And all of them would have enough of a circulation that it was viable for them to print the magazines and pay their staffers, make a bit of money. It's staff writers. Imagine that these days, where just about everybody who scribbles anything is a freelance and just hoping for the best. But yeah, so for the wonderful world of shooting, obviously first and foremost it would have been Airgun World. Airgun World was the original, and it is now, I think it's the only one that's still in print. So if you want printed media airgun magazine these days, it's Airgun World or nothing, pretty much. I think some of the other shooting titles do cover do have an airgun section and have writers who have an interest and experience of air rifles. But in terms of dedicated magazines just about airguns, it is now just Airgun World, unfortunately. Obviously, over the years, we had Airgunner. I started in, I looked this up yesterday because I thought it was 1985, but it was actually 1984. And in and around about the same time was Sporting Air Rifle, which I think was something to do with the legendary Jim Tyler, who isn't currently writing for the Airgun World. I hope he's still about and healthy, because I used to love his articles. They were the right level of technical for me. I used to find all that fascinating. But yeah, so the main sort of crux of this video is I want to throw this part of it over to you guys. I really want you guys to get involved in the comments below. Most people will have had a favourite Airgun World in particular. If we focus on that, obviously I had an interest in and used to get Airgun up as well, and at one stage, I think towards the sort of middle of my teens, I had every copy of Airgun World going back to about 1978 or 1979, something like that, and every copy of Airgunner since its launch as well, and Sporting Air Rifle. And as you do, like when I got married and sort of moved out, that type of thing, I just binned it all, which when I see what they're going for on eBay now, I view that decision with great regret, I must say. Although, to be fair, if I still had them now, you wouldn't be able to prize them from my cold dead fingers, because I would love to be able to just flick through them and see the old articles and the adverts, and then probably cry myself to sleep about the prices of the day as well. I was having a flick through one of somebody else's the other day, and the prices they were asking for things like brand new fine whip bow sports and HW80s is beggars belief, really. But there. Yeah, so focusing mainly on Airgun World, what I'd like you guys to do is let me know who was your favourite writer. There were many over the years. to name but a few, and in no particular order, we've got John Atkins, John Walter, Chris Wright, Freddie Dalgetty, David Lane, Rod Linton, Jim Tyler, the incomparable John Darling, Eddie Barber, and Fred Grimwade, who I believe were one and the same person, and of course the legendary technical genius that was Gerald Cardew. Quite a few of those also wrote and had published actual books on their particular specialism within the sport as well. There are doubtless many other writers from the 70s and 80s airgun world that I've forgotten. If any of you guys can fill in any of the gaps, then please do get involved in the comments below and let us know about that. I'm going to sign off on this one by, and it's something else that I'd like people to get involved with if they can. Most of you will have one or two articles that you particularly remember, favourite articles, ones that you probably at the time, with the sort of obsessive nature of children and teens, you might have read and reread and reread. I know one of mine was, and I can, in my mind's eye, I can visualise the cover of this magazine. I think it was Airgun World rather than Air Gunner. It was around about 1985. It was like a best of British edition, and it had a sort of Union Jack, red, white, blue background behind the pictures on the cover. And I think on the cover there were the two rifles that were involved in the article that I'm about to mention, which would have been the two high-end British guns at the time, which were the BSA Airsporter S and the Webley Vulcan Mark II Deluxe. And the article, I can remember one of the writers, but not the other. One of them was Freddie Dalgetty, and he was in company with somebody else. Now, I can't remember at this distance in time whether it was another staffer or a hunting friend of his. From what I remember, Freddie Dalgetty was based up in Scotland. I know he used to hunt a lot of hooded crows, I do remember that. He used to do regular sort of hunting articles for Airgun World. And in this particular one, it was him and this other person, whoever that was, and they had either a rowing boat or a canoe, and they rowed across to some small island where you had permission to shoot, and I think the basis of it was that they sort of camped out for a weekend, and at the same time tested the two guns, and that was the BSA Airsporter S and the Webley Vulcan Deluxe. And I remember reading and rereading and rereading that, and I think at the time I just had my Relon Tornado, so the type of guns they were using were far beyond what I could possibly hope to own myself. And I'm just so impressed with it. And there were some really nice photographs of the beautiful walnut stocks on the guns. I did have a quick scan through the internet last night to see if I could find a online copy of that cover so that we can insert it, but unfortunately it's one of the ones that seems to be lost to time. But yeah, so that was my favourite one. It was a best of British one about the Airsporter S and the Webley Vulcan Deluxe. One of the writers involved was Freddie Dalgetty, who was brilliant. Or just sort of another writer who used to love the hunting articles of. James Marchington, he was a regular contributor to both of the magazines, I think at one point or another. But yeah, so anyway, I'm going to throw that over to you guys now. So if you can get involved and let us know who was your favourite writer in Airgun World, what was your favourite era, and if there was a specific article or gun test that was really influential for you and you can remember it. It'd be really good to hear from you. Looking forward to reading those comments, and we'll see you again soon.